Hey there, this is Sumit. So welcome to yet another video. In this video, we'll be discovering lots of cool thing about JavaScript array and different methods and functions you can apply to them. Whatever the language you use, if there is concept of array, then there will be a few methods and libraries already offered by language itself. When you have a collection of elements and group of elements like this, sometimes you need to apply certain methods to them. Sometimes you need to remove a particular element from the list. Sometimes you need to access a particular element from the list, and you might have operation like compare all these elements with a particular element and create a new collection. Okay, to perform all these operations, we have different method. We can follow different method. Okay, first let's discover few methods that might cause a little confusion. We have a few methods like pop, push, shift, unshift that may seem a little confusing from coding perspective, but they do make sense in real life when we see them in action. Okay, if I want to grab the last element, instead of finding how long this array is and what is the position of last element, I can simply use pop method, and if you want to place it back, you can just push it using push method. Only thing that changes is the total length of the array. Okay, if I remove very first element, then obviously I need to refill this position, then rest of the element will be moving forward. In this case, length as well as the position of each element is changing, and if I want to add new element in front, then rest of the element will be moving backward. This step, this method is called unshift method. Okay, now let's see them in action and some more method we can use with arrays. Before diving into different methods we can use on JavaScript array, let me give you a little introduction about what JavaScript arrays are. Imagine a box. In this box you can store anything you want. Just imagine anything and put it in this box. For example, I want to store some string value. I can store integer value. I can store another list having some data. Okay, I can store some weird thing like undefined value, null value. Okay, JavaScript doesn't care the type of data you are inserting in it. Okay, best way to learn about JavaScript arrays and objects and all that thing, just connect this JavaScript file with index file so you can see what's going on in your JavaScript file in your browser. Let me open browser console. Now in my browser console I can test what's going on in my JavaScript file. Let me just check if it's working or not. All right, it's working perfectly. Okay, first let's see what this box is. When I console.log box, I get a list of 5 elements. As you can see, I have 5 elements in my array. I have these values as well as their index. I have one length properties. These are the methods I can use on my array. Okay, obviously we are not going to remember all of these methods, so I categorize these methods based on their action. You can convert an array to string, you can manipulate array, you can add new entry to array or remove some element from array, you can iterate through array, you can search any element in array. Okay, very basic thing you want to do with array is convert them into string. I have set up this array contain 3 elements and I want to convert these element into a string. I can either use join method or I can use toString method. First let's see how join method work. If I use this method adds all the element of an array and convert them into string. Let's see its value. As you can see, all these values are converted into string and they are separated by comma. You can use your own parameter if you want. For example, you want space between them, you can use space. If you want space, pipe space, you can do that as well. Okay, now let's see how toString method work. toString method is generally used for a particular element of an array, but I can also use toString method on entire array. If I do something like toString, the thing with toString is that you cannot pass any parameter you want. For example, if I do something like space, you can see I'm still getting same string. Okay, toString method is generally used to convert a particular element of an array. Imagine you have 4 in front, and if I want to convert this 4, then obviously I need to reassign this 4 to its string value. Now I want to convert this single entry into string. I can use toString here. I cannot use a join method. for a single entry. If I console.log this array, oh, I'm sorry, it's colors actually. If I console.log, you can see here, for each integer value which is converted into string. In the beginning of this video, I have provided you with an overview of how you can use different methods to add new entry to the array or remove element of the array. Let me give you an overview how you can manipulate array. Let me just Okay, if I want to add new entry to this colors array, I can use push method. Push method will add new items in the end of the array. For example, I want to add this string value. This value is added in the end of the array and its length is increased by 1. If I want to remove last element of the array, I can use pop method. Pop method will remove this last entry. Okay, if I want to add element in the beginning of the array, I can use unshift method. And I can also remove first element of the array. So far we have discussed few methods which are fairly easy. We can either apply them directly to the array object or we can pass some parameter to them. Now let's discuss few methods which can apply a function to each element of the array object. For example, I want to create a ToDo application. So I have a list of all the tasks entered by user. Now I want to display this list array onto the website. Obviously, I need to iterate through each value. I can either use forEach method or I can use map method. Now let's see how forEach method works. I have created a list of tasks. Then I'm applying a forEach method. In this forEach method, we have a callback function. This callback function will run exactly one time for each value of this task array. Okay. Now let's see them in console. Okay, I have displayed them onto the console. Now let's see how map method works. This map method has one more parameter which is index. For example, you want to display like this is my first task, this is my second task, this is my third task. You can also add an index here. If I run this function, I have I can increase value of index because obviously task will start with with index number 1. This is my first task, this is second task and third task. Okay, one of advantage of map method is it will return me all the values which is manipulated inside callback function. For example, I want to store a list of all these lists into a lists array. I can simply say return list. Okay, if I console.log this list, I have list of 3 items. You know what is the advantage of this list? For example, if I want to add new task, I can simply do like list.push. I can push new item here. Now I have a list of 4 items. We have few other methods which work similar to map and filter but serve different purposes. For example, I have an array of integer value. In this array, I want to filter all the even entries into a single array, or I can ask for things like aggregate all these values. I mean, I can ask for do sum of all these values, or I can ask for things like find first even value. Okay, I can ask for so many things in array. We have different methods to solve all these purposes. Now let's discuss one by one. First, we have filter method. This filter method obviously check whoever element is satisfying this condition. Filter method store that value in even numbers list. Then we have reduce method. How this reduce method work? In this reduce method, we have a callback function and we have a initial value. In this callback function, we have accumulator parameter. In this accumulator parameter, we store a result of every iteration. For example, I have a current value, so I have a current value and I have initialized a value 0. We have accumulator value 1 plus 0. Now new value of accumulator is 1. In next iteration we use this accumulator value and 2 as a current value, so accumulator value will be 1 plus 2. And if we repeat all this step till the end, we finally have sum of all these values. Okay, now let's check them in console. So we have sum of, okay, first we printed sum, then we have all the even entries. Okay, we have methods like find. In this method we check a condition. It is kind of similar to filter method, but it return only one value. Whoever value satisfying this condition will be stored in this variable. As you can see, 2 is our first even number.